Sentinel Online, now loading the Geekcast radio network of podcasts.
Today on episode 82 of Cinema Geeks,
we discuss the latest sequels to get greenlit.
We talk about the latest video game franchise heading to the silver screen.
And we rank our top 5 February film releases.
All that and more coming up on episode 82 with the Cinema Geeks. That's right, it is episode 82 of the Cinema Geeks. I am one of your Cinema Geeks, Optimus Solo. Joining me, as always, is Movie Revolt Dan. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Not too shabby. And Hard Candy Mandy.
Word,
she says. And we are back at it again with another February-themed episode for you, the last that we'll be doing. And we'll get into that a little bit more later, but kind of similar to what we did last week. Similar, but different. But before that, we'll get into a little bit of the news from this last little bit. As we teased in the opening, yes, there is another video game film or franchise that's going to be trying to make the transition into a major motion picture. Amanda, any guess as to what video game that is?
Well, we already know Angry Birds.
Not talking about this year, not talking about the ones for this year, so no Ratchet and Clank or Angry Birds.
Shit, I don't know.
It's a very famous franchise. Dan, have you seen it?
Tetris?
Not Tetris. That would be an interesting feat to pull off, though, I believe.
They'd find a way, you know.
Hey, they made the Lego movie work, right?
Yeah.
Nope, the next franchise that's going to be trying to make its way to the silver screen is none other than a live-action Sonic the Hedgehog movie coming in 2018, courtesy of a partnership between Sony Pictures and Sega, calling the film a hybrid of live-action and CG, so maybe a little less Angry Birds and Ratchet and Clank like we're getting this year, and a little more like the Smurfs, Garfield, or Alvin and the Chipmunks, maybe?
Oh, yay.
Dan, are you excited about Sonic the Hedgehog becoming a movie?
Well, I mean, if we can get something more like Alvin and Chipmunks and Smurfs, why not?
It'll make money, probably.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think I'd be more excited if it was going just straight animation. Trying to do that live action, I don't even know how that would work exactly. I don't know. I would say I'm hesitant on this being any good. So,
I think hesitant at best is a good way to describe my feelings on that one as well. Amanda, are you going to be the one that's excited for Sonic?
I wouldn't say excited is the right word. Intrigued. I'll watch it. Yeah.
All right. So you'll have to let us know what your thoughts are on a Sonic the Hedgehog film.
If I can remember in 2018 to watch the show.
And if you agree or disagree on the route of a hybrid between animation and CG, should it be full animation, or what would be your thoughts on a Sonic film? Moving on to the next headline here. This is going to be just the first, probably, of many headlines like this. And I'm just calling this one the Don't Mess with Star Wars headline. And we've had our first move already as far as vacating any type of relationship with Episode 8. Episode 8, if you haven't been keeping track, is slated to open December of 2017. So far, we've already had one person move out of that month. They've vacated the December 2017 spot, and they're now slated to open in March of 2018, and that is the Steven Spielberg joint Ready Player One. They were scheduled to open 2 days after Star Wars Episode 8, and they decided that is not a good plan. So my question, Dan, is will there be any films released outside of Star Wars in that entire month?
I would say mostly animated, or like completely the opposite of, like you'll get some like prestige films like we had with The Hateful Eight or something like that, but nothing that's going to be like a major winter blockbuster or what have you. It's definitely not going to even try to compete with it for sure. It's going to be Star Wars for an entire month, probably nothing really getting released again until like March. So,
right.
Yeah.
Which is when Ready Player One comes out. So I think definitely a smart move for another science fiction film to vacate that territory. Amanda, if you were a film producer, if you're the one calling the shots, do you let your film be released the same month as Star Wars?
Hell no.
All right, I think that's just the first. We'll probably see some other moves, just like we saw with Episode 7 when Mission Impossible vacated. Talking about sequel news, there's 2 sequels that have been announced recent times. Not necessarily that we need a ton of reaction about it, but in case you are interested, we have a Deadpool 2, which has already been greenlit, as well as the confirmation of a Saw 8. Saw 8. Amanda, you are the resident horror film guru.
Indeed.
Saw 8, necessary?
I've seen quite a few of the Saws, even in theaters, and I can only imagine where they would take it. So I'm not really sure if I would want to see this movie. Just like any of the Human Centipedes, I have never seen any of those, nor do I care to ever. This might be along those same kind of lines. So I'm good. I'm good on all that.
All right, Dan, Deadpool 2. We're already set for one. Is it a little early to be doing that, or is it a sure bet?
Well, we also had a Fantastic Four 2, and that never happened. So just because they announced, I feel like they do this move where they announce a sequel the week before the movie comes out, right, just as like, hey, it's we have this confidence in it. But if they end up
go see it because there'll be more coming.
Yeah, they try to like, I got to get in now because this will be my only shot to watch it if I don't get it this weekend. So I hopefully it's a good sign. I mean, but like I said, it's happened before where there's been sequels and never happened. But I don't know. I've heard a lot of early reviews already for it. We're recording this, hasn't been out yet, but I will be going to see it, so I'm super excited for it. My only question so much is how well it's going to do, and hopefully it can do at least well enough to get that sequel. But
yeah, that would be one of the questions. Amanda, you're excited already, and even without seeing it. Are you glad that you have the hopes of a second one as well?
Well, thanks for ruining it. We know he doesn't get blown up or like sent into space where you can't come back or anything.
Or do you? Maybe they're just pulling our chain.
They could be. And I'll be excited after I see this Deadpool.
Okay. In the last little bit of news, outside of just clarification, because there has been now a title dropped for the next Bourne film, and it's not Bourne Identity, Supremacy, or anything like that. It's simply going to be titled Jason Bourne. So it doesn't get more simple than that, does it, Dan?
It does not.
Is that just like the ultimate move to try to distance themselves or clarify to everybody that this is about Matt Damon?
I'm surprised they didn't just call it Matt Damon. It's like
Jason Bourne without... Yeah.
I guess they ran out of things. Once you hit Ultimatum, I guess you can't have any other Bourne Ultimatum. I thought it was funny because I thought after Bourne Ultimatum, I think Matt Damon said if they ever made another one, it'd be the Bourne Redundancy, and I guess they decided not to go with that one. So
that's awesome.
I think they just wanted to let you know that Jeremy Renner was not going to be.
Yes, I think that's the main thing they're going for on that one. Last piece of news here, just came up here on my movie news app here, which is
Mr. Technology over here.
I guess that my phone's good for one thing, and that is along the same lines of what we've seen with the Expendables and some other franchises that have done that. Apparently, the next type of lineup that we're going to be seeing here is a horror film lineup in relation to, or I guess similar to what the Expendables did. It's going to be called Death House, and what it's doing is it's basically putting as many horror icons as possible. Now, horror fans are going to know these names more than I might, but we have the cast at this point is being said to include Robert Englund, Danny Trejo, Michael Berryman, Kane Hodder, Dee Wallace, Bill Moseley, Barbara Crampton, Doug Bradley, Ken Foree, Camille Keaton, and Don Shanks. I only know like 2 of those people. But it's supposed to be, I guess, a who's who of actors that have appeared in different horror franchises. Amanda, are you excited about the idea of Expendables in the horror genre?
Hell yeah. I know that there's been talk for a while of trying to get a bunch of big players thrown together in one horror movie. And I super dig that. I feel like it could be the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen meets Expendables of the horror genre.
All right, so 1 vote in favor. Dan, what do you think?
I guess my question is, are they playing the characters that they're known for? Because, I mean, like, is that what they're going to be doing? Or
yeah, I'm not sure. It didn't say much about what the details
I would assume not. Though, like, I feel like Robert Englund has pretty much become Freddy. But
Right.
I mean, sure.
I thought that's what it was. I thought it was supposed to be like Freddy and Dracula and like.
And I don't even know which way it works
on.
better. Does it work better like that, or does it work better just having all these faces that were in these other things, but playing some type of other?
Well, a lot of them, like, the one guy I think was the guy who plays Jason, so it wouldn't like it just like, hey, that's the guy that's behind the mask. Like, I don't know. It'd be sure. I know like Guillermo del Toro was trying to do something along those lines with like different comic book like characters that were horror based as well. So this would be like, I guess, the next best thing. I mean, it could work. I would rather see that than another Expendables movie. So if that says anything.
Yeah, I think the only picture I can get in my head when I'm thinking about this is that this would be like the live action film version of a Royal Rumble.
I think that's what it's supposed to be. Basically.
Just throw all these guys in and see who's the last survivor.
I think it's supposed to be like Frankenstein and Freddy and Jason and Dracula and bullshit like that.
All right. Well, we'll have to wait and see what turns out of this Expendables version of the horror genre. All right. So that's it for the news for today. But we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to be back with our second look at the month of February. It always gets a bad rap. We kind of explored a little bit last week as to if that bad rap is justified or not, and we're going to take a kind of a flip look in another direction to see, once again, is February just deserving of that bad rap, or is there some good stuff that it is offered throughout the year? So we'll be right back after the break.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Hey guys, it's Optimus Solo and
Hard Candy Mandy.
we just wanted to let you guys know about another podcast out there that we both think you would all enjoy.
It's one of both of our favorite shows to listen to, and it's none other than the True Bromance Podcast.
True Bromance is a movie podcast hosted by longtime friends Hyro and Barry, and if you like to smile, laugh, and just be genuinely entertained while listening to movie talk, then this is definitely the right show for you.
Each week, the guys break down a recently released movie, and not only do they tie in the movie that week to the beers that they are drinking during the show,
but they also tie it in to a real fun top and bottom 5 list associated with that movie.
It's a blast hearing both sides of these lists, and it definitely makes them unique amongst all other movie review podcasts.
So we definitely want to recommend all of you guys to go check out their show. Just search out the True Bromance Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and all other podcast platforms. And if you listen via iTunes, do us a favor and leave them a 5-star review. And don't forget to let them know that the Cinema Geeks sent you.
On the Simplistic Reviews podcast, we talk movies. We talk TV. We talk.
Hello, Julie, what the heck are you doing?
Trying to make our spots sound more exciting by adding explosions.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could have got the point across with sound effects, not the real thing. Car.
Download this show on iTunes or at simplisticreviews.blogspot.com.
I'm sure your insurance company will cover that.
No, they won't.
No, they probably won't.
Now back to the show. Do you see how your patience paid off?
All right, thanks for sticking with us. As we said, like last week when we looked at which February release scored better in Rotten Tomatoes, we have something somewhat similar to that we're going to do today. And then once we're done with that, we're going to also follow that up with our favorite films that have ever been released in February to see if there's even enough films worthy of making lists like that. So, Dan, I think you have all the material prepared for us. So how exactly are we going to be breaking this down?
So we did this game once before. It's basically called What Made More, and what I'm going to be doing, there are two different ways this will happen. There's simply the versus matchup, two movies that are in a specific category head-to-head, and then there's ranking ones, which are 3 or more, and Kevin and Amanda will be going head-to-head to see who has a better idea of what movies made more money. So it's simply domestic, not considering global, just domestic overall box office. For movies that came out in February, and you'd be surprised, there was actually quite a few that made a good deal of money that came out this month when you don't necessarily associate February with blockbusters.
So Amanda, you held your own last week with Rotten Tomatoes and ended up tying Dan as far as the February showdown for Rotten Tomatoes. How are you feeling going up against me now in the box office?
Not so good, because you're a freaking nerd and you pay attention to that a lot more than I do, and you have all these little spreadsheets and you have all this little data locked in your brain here, and I'm just going, dude, I like this movie. So we'll see how it...
Now I'm going to feel very stupid if I lose.
No. I hope I come in and crush
Remember,
it.
these are February films. It might be hard to predict what these actually made. But Dan, I'll let you lead the way.
All right, so Amanda, ladies first, as always, I'm going to give you 2 categories here. You let me know which category you'd rather go with, and then we'll go from there. So, first
chivalry is not dead.
Yeah. at least in podcast form when it comes to fake games.
Twitter, it's dead.
Yeah. There's a lot of things dead on Twitter. All right, so the first category we have crappy concert films, and
crappy concept films.
Crappy concert films.
Concert films.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then animated movies.
Let's do crappy concert movies.
Right. So you have to rank these 3 from, greatest amount of money to least greatest amount of money. There's only 3 here, but we have Justin Bieber, Never Say Never, Jonas Brothers, the 3D concert experience, and Hannah Montana and Miley Cyrus, Best of Both Worlds concert.
Shit. Woo. Man. I think
Come on, you listen to all these people.
I do not listen to Jonas. I've never heard it. I don't do anything with Hannah Montana. Yes, I do rock the Biebs, though. And do I want to go Bieber Fever, or... Let's see. Let's do Justin Bieber, Hannah Montana, Jonas Brothers.
You are correct.
Woo-woo!
What? Oh, Lord.
Yes.
That's what I get for having 8-year-old listeners on the radio station.
So, yes,
man.
Justin Bieber, Never Say Never made $73 million. Hannah Montana made $65 million. And apparently no one likes the Jonas Brothers because it only made $19 million. So, there you go.
Jeez.
All right. So,
wow, that means more people saw that Justin Bieber movie than, I don't know, I should be able to insert like a whole bunch of good films.
I should be able to, but you can't.
Yeah, we'll go through some of them as we go through this. So, Kev, this works for you, Kevin, because it gives you animation. So these are the movies that are a couple more, but I figure some of these are obvious. But so the movies that you're ranking: the Lego Movie, The Croods, Rango, Romeo and Juliet, and Coraline.
Jeez, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, well, first we'll put Lego Movie first.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got Croods, Rango, Coraline, and what one?
Romeo and Juliet.
Romeo and Juliet. Croods, Rango, Coraline. I'm going to put Croods. I'm going to go Lego Movie, number 1. Croods, number 2.
Do you have Rango, Romeo, and Coraline?
Yeah. Man, that's hard.
Yeah.
That is hard. I will go... That's going to be wrong, but I'll go Romeo and Juliet, then Rango, and then Coraline.
You should have went with your gut. It is Lego Movie, The Croods, Rango, Romeo and Juliet, and Coraline.
I switched those 2 at the last second.
Yeah, so Lego Movie made tons of money. It was over $257 million. The Croods with over 187 million. Rango 128. Romeo and Juliet almost 100 million with $99 million, and lastly Coraline with $75 million. So there you go.
Damn you, Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah. All right. So, Amanda, taking the early lead.
Yeah.
So, Amanda, again, I'll give you 3 categories here. These will be face-off films, all in the romantic category. These are all romantic films, but subcategories. So, we have the romantic categories with too many stars getting a paycheck. The romantic category with serious drama films. And lastly, the romantic category with good actors making bad movies.
Let's go. Good actors making bad movies.
All right, so the 2 films facing off in this are Fool's Gold and This Means War. Which made more?
I'm going to say Fool's Gold was a Matthew McConaughey joint.
That is correct.
Let's go. Let's bet on the McConaughey.
You are correct. Yes, Fool's Gold made $70 million, and This Means War made $54 million.
Whew.
It's unstoppable right now.
So, Kevin,
and Fuego.
You have...
I'll go with the one with the serious,
serious drama romantic films.
Yeah.
So we have Definitely Maybe and The Vow.
Definitely, maybe, not. I will go with definitely, maybe, make it more. Because it definitely, maybe, made more.
Well, it definitely didn't make more.
Damn it.
The Vow came in with $125 million. Well, definitely, maybe, only made $32 million.
Oh, geez, I wasn't even close. I don't even know what The Vow is.
It's the movie with Channing Tatum and Rachel McAdams.
Oh, I'm going to ask that question first.
Where she loses her memory, but
okay,
it's based on a true story. I know too much about that movie.
Stop talking. You're admitting too much.
All right, let's move it on over here.
Jeez.
All right, Amanda, we have another option for. Well, let's start with Kevin and give you the first option this time. Another ranking one. We have ranking horror films, Nicholas Sparks movies,
Jesus,
and notable directors.
Oh man, Amanda's gonna knock it out of the park with either horror films or with Nicholas Sparks. I guess.
Excuse me, sir?
I guess I'll go with the directors.
All right, directors. Only 3 in this one, but we have rank these 3 films: The Grand Budapest Hotel, The Ghostwriter, which was done by Roman Polanski, Grand Budapest Hotel, obviously Ross Anderson, and lastly, Shutter Island by Martin Scorsese.
Man, Scorsese films, actually, as good as they are, don't make a lot of money. Man, Grand Budapest Hotel, that didn't make a ton of money either. What's the other one?
And The Ghostwriter. Not the movie based on the PBS show. It's
Oh, God, I'm doing terrible at this. Man, Shutter Island. I know Scorsese films don't make a lot, but I think Shutter Island did decent. I will go with Shutter Island first, Grand Budapest Hotel second, and Ghostwriter third, and that's wrong.
You are on the board. That is correct.
Oh, sweet.
Shutter Island came in first with $128 million, Grand Budapest Hotel with $59 million, and The Ghostwriter last with $15 million. So
you're saying there's a chance.
There's a chance. Amanda, so that leaves you with horror films or Nicholas Sparks movies. Some would argue they're both scary. But
Let's go horror films, just to see if I can
let's see.
prove myself here.
So we have 4 films in this category, starting with Final Destination 3, Friday the 13th, the remake from 2009. I wanted to specify that. The Woman in Black, and lastly, The Crazies.
Good luck.
So that's Final Destination 3, Friday the 13th, The Woman in Black, and The Crazies.
Let's go Friday the 13th, Crazies, Woman in Black. What was my other choice?
Final Destination.
Oh, okay. So let's do... Oh, man. Friday the 13th, Final Destination 3, The Crazies, and Woman in Black.
I think you're wrong, because I think Woman in Black made way more money than you think.
It goes Friday the 13th was number 1 with $65 million. Next, The Woman in Black with $54,300,000. Very closely followed by Final Destination 3, which made $54,098,000. And lastly, The Crazies, which made $39 million. So,
all right.
Man.
Right, so
I would have got that wrong, too, though.
At least I wasn't too far off.
You were not. All right, so another face-off here. We're going to face off with 2 different sets of Adam Sandler films. You have the first set, which are Drew Barrymore films, or early Adam Sandler.
Who's getting the choice
Oh,
here?
sorry, I should have said that. Amanda, we'll start with you. We'll do the snake, since Kevin got the first choice last time.
That's fine.
So, Drew Barrymore or early Adam Sandler?
Yeah.
Let's do early Adam Sandler.
What made more, Happy Gilmore or Billy Madison?
Let's say Happy Gilmore. He was more established.
You are correct. Happy Gilmore made more. It made $38 million, where Billy Madison only made $25.
Me and my mom snuck into Billy Madison when I was little.
That's why I didn't make more.
So if you hadn't snuck in, you would have got that question wrong.
That's how inflation works. It would have. All right. So that leaves you, Kevin, with The Drew Barrymore films. What made more, 50 First Dates or The Wedding Singer?
Man, 50 First Dates a lot of people like, but Wedding Singer was at like the peak. He had just done Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore. Everybody loved him. Came out with The Wedding Singer. 50 First Dates, though. Man, I think they both did decent. I'm going to go with The Wedding Singer.
Say that a little louder, Gene.
I'm not very proud of that.
It was actually 50 First Dates. It made $120 million, and The Wedding Singer made $80 million. So,
jeez, blew it out of the water.
All right, Kevin, we'll give you an opportunity to make up some ground here, though, with another ranking opportunity. We have ranking of classic comedies or ranking of comic book movies.
I will definitely take the comic book movies.
All right, so here are the comic book movies to rank. We have Constantine, Daredevil, Ghost Rider, The Spirit of Vengeance, and the original Ghost Rider.
All right, well, I will go with, let's see, we got Constantine, Ghost Rider, and what was the other one?
Daredevil.
I'll go with Constantine first.
As the one that made the most?
Yes. We'll go with Constantine as making the most. I don't know why I feel confident about that. I'm probably wrong, but for some reason I think people watch that.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Then we'll go with the first. Constantine, Ghost Rider, the first one, Daredevil, and then Ghost Rider, the second one.
Okay. The one coming in first was Ghost Rider with $115 million, then Daredevil with $102, Constantine with $75, and lastly, Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance with $51 million.
I picked comic book movies way before I remembered which comic book films came out in February. All right.
All right. So moving over, Amanda. So you have the classic comedies. Which one of these? Again, ranking 4 films again. We have Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, Groundhog Day, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and Wayne's World. Rank those.
I knew I didn't want to do that because I had no freaking clue what order to put those in.
Wayne's World, Bill and Ted, Groundhog Day, and what else?
Ace Ventura.
Ace Ventura? Shit. Let's say Wayne's World, Groundhog Day. Oh, no. Groundhog Day, Wayne's World, Ace Ventura, and what was
Bill and Ted.
Bill and Ted, and then Bill and Ted.
You were so very close. Coming in first was Wayne's World with $121 million.
God, I shouldn't have changed.
Next was Ace Ventura, Pet Detective with $72 million. Then Groundhog Day with $70 million. And lastly, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure with $40 million. God. All right, so we have 2 more face-offs here. We have Men in Fat Suits or wannabe comic book movies.
Amanda?
Me?
Yeah.
Let's do let's do Men in Fat Suits.
Men in Fat Suits. What made more? Big Mama, Like Father, Like Son, or Medea Goes to Jail?
Medea Goes to Jail.
You're correct. With $90 million, with Big Mama 4, I think it is. I don't even know. Made $37 million.
That was not fair. That was a Medea film. Oh, man.
Dude, Tyler Perry killed me.
I know.
So America
right,
lost in that one, really. Is what.
Yeah, really. I'll take the wannabe comedy stars then.
Wannabe comic book movies.
Oh, that's right. Wannabe comic book movies.
We have Jumper or Push.
Jumper made more.
Jumper did make more, with $80 million, where Push made $30 million. So,
all right.
So we have Amanda with 4 points, Kevin with 2 points, but you get to pick first in this round. Let's see what we have left here. Okay, so we have franchises that weren't. These, again, are face-off films or cult comedies.
What
are the options?
Franchises that weren't or
cult
comedies. I'll go cult comedies.
What made more, Super Troopers or Office Space?
Oof. They were both kind of middling. Man, if we were to be able to choose like DVD sales, I gotta go with Super Troopers, making more.
You're correct. Super Troopers made more with $18 million, where Alpha Space made $10 million. So to put that in perspective, Justin Bieber, Never Say Never, made 7 times more than Alpha Space in the theater. So
that's embarrassing.
All right,
America lost on that one too.
Kevin's making a comeback, so the score is now 4-3. And the next one is up to you. So we have franchises that weren't. What made more, Vampire Academy or I Am Number 4?
Oh, shit.
That's not one of the choices.
Welcome to February.
I Am Number 4?
You are correct. I Am Number 4 did make more. I Am Number 4 made $45 million, where Vampire Academy made $7.
Not a good choice.
$1 million, not dollars. Like that would be bad.
$7.
All right, so we have similar action films face off. Amanda, you can choose from Old Man Kicking Ass or True Life action films, I guess, would be the category.
Old Men Kicking Ass.
Old Men Kicking Ass. What made more, From Paris with Love or 3 Days to Kill?
From Paris with Love.
That is incorrect. 3 Days...
No!
Yes, 3 Days to Kill made $30 million, where From Paris to Love made $24 million.
That was not a bad movie. I own it. I like it. I've rewatched it.
You let your personal feelings get in the way of the content.
I did. I was blinded.
Right.
Blinded by love.
Yeah. Kevin Costner does that to people. All right. Kevin, this is your chance to tie if you can get this one right. What made more, Act of Valor or Safe House?
Oof. I want to say that...
This is going to be a total pull out of your ass guess, and if you tie this, I'm going to be super
I want to say that
mad.
both of these were near the top for their year, for that month. Act of Valor, Safe House, not to be confused with Safe Haven.
I'm sure a lot of people made that mistake. It's like, oh.
It is February.
I guess we'll go the whole patriotic thing and Act of Valor.
Act of Valor made $70 million, where Safe House made $120 million.
Oh, Amanda wins.
All right. So we...
Fucking A right, doggy.
All right. Well, we've got one more ranking. We can do this one for fun, or if...
Yeah.
All right. So, well, we'll see. If you end up tying, I do have a tiebreaker, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
All right.
Why do you keep giving him chances to beat me, Dan?
I don't know. All right, Amanda, I think you have the choice again. No, you just had the choice, so it's Kevin's. Do you have ranking of historical dramas or fantasy films?
Oof.
Either way, he's going to crush it. This shit.
Historical dramas.
All right, we have The Other Berlin Girl, The Eagle, and The Monuments Men.
Whew. I don't think The Other Berlin Girl made that much money, so I'm going to put that last. The Eagle, Monuments Men. Oof. Monuments Eagle. I will go with none of the above. I guess I'll go with The Eagle first, then Monuments Men, and then The Other Berlin Girl.
It is The Monuments Men with one at $78 million, then The Other Berlin Girl with $26 million, and then The Eagle with $19 million.
I way overestimated The Eagle.
You did.
I'll do that too because it's got Tatum in it.
So, Amanda, we'll just give you this one for fun, see how well you do. These are all fantasy films. We have Jack the Giant Slayer, Oz the Great and Powerful, and Army of Darkness.
Shit. Let's do Oz the Great and Powerful. What was the other one? Army of Darkness and what?
Jack the Giant Slayer.
Let's do Oz the Great and Powerful, Army of Darkness, then Jack the Giant Slayer.
It is Oz the Great and Powerful with $234 million. Then Jack the Giant Slayer with 65. Lastly, Army of Darkness with 11.
I forget that was way back in the day, and people didn't spend that much money. So
We are terrible at this.
I did beat you, though.
Yes.
She did.
Speak for yourself, sir.
I think that's all I have. Yeah, that's all the ones I have. But yeah, so it's I do have a couple extra ones if you wanted to try them, just for fun.
Yeah, let's add insult to injury.
All right. Well, this is, you can just both guess. It's a disaster films. What made more, Dante's Peak or Pompeii?
Jesus. God, that's a sad statement.
Can we say Pompeii?
Dante's Peak.
Dante's Peak made more with $67 million.
I just really want to see Pompeii. I
No,
really
you
do.
don't. We've already told you to stop it.
What made more, Dear John or Safe Haven?
Oh, Dear John.
Yeah, Dear John.
It did. Dear John made $80 million. Safe Haven made $71 million. It was boosted by the amount of people trying to go see Safe House, though, probably.
Coincidence.
And the last one, Nights of Rodanthe or A Walk to Remember?
A Walk to Remember.
Nights of Rodanthe with $41 million and
I've never even heard of that.
it's with Richard Gere and someone else.
Yeah. It's not important either.
But yeah, that's all. Again, so surprisingly, there were some movies in there that made a great deal. Like, I didn't realize Wayne's World came out in February, but mostly it is not very good. Yeah.
Apparently, a month used to be. It seems like a month full of comedy releases.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting, kind of looking through this, and we'll kind of get into this a little bit with our list, how February has changed over the years, and it didn't seem like it maybe necessarily was as terrible back a while back, maybe a decade or two, as it seems to have been in the last 8 or 9, 10 years. But we'll get into that a little bit as we get into our next segment, which we're actually going to be trying to flip it. We've been looking at money, we've been looking at Rotten Tomatoes, which didn't necessarily mean good Rotten Tomatoes scores. But now we're going to try to pull out the best that February had to offer. Now, I'll let you guys each go over your criteria a little bit. Dan, I don't know how far back you went, but for my purposes, I only really went back to the 80s, like 1980, 81, 82, somewhere in that range. Because I kind of wanted to look at it more of, a time where the months start to mean something as far as release dates and the strategy that goes into it. And I really think the further you go back, it probably didn't matter as much. So I did not consider anything from the 70s or before. I don't know what your criteria was, Dan.
I was the same way. I was kind of 90s and above because the way, the release schedule happened back really pre-90s, 80s. Before that was you had much slower of a release schedule. Things would stay in theaters a lot longer. So I figured this was back when you had a lot more movies, or not necessarily a lot more movies, but the shelf life of films when home video came out got so much shorter. So I figured I went for those. And honestly, also was using Wikipedia, and Wikipedia after 1989 no longer lists them by month. So that also.
Gotcha. All right. Amanda, anything that you want to... I know you had lists and lists of movies because apparently this is one of your favorite months of the year.
Apparently. Super hard for me. I did not think it was going to be this hard. I had to separate them in all these dumb little categories. I even have... Adam Sandler has its own category because there's so many. But then I also have action / comic book / thriller / sci-fi all as one. So, yeah, I got, I don't know. I'm not really feeling good about my list whatsoever. Too many good choices, honestly.
So apparently you're going to spit in the face of people that say February is a bad month for film, huh?
Come into my camp and you will no longer feel that way.
All right, well, we will let you go first then. As always,
God,
chivalry continues here on the Cinema Geeks. So what is your first choice here for your top films of February?
I changed this 4 times in the past 15 minutes. My number 5 is going to be The Wedding Singer, but it could also be tied by all other Adam Sandler movies.
All other?
All other February. I mean, we got Wedding Singer, 51st Dates, Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore. I'm choosing The Wedding Singer.
All right. So, like I said, it seems like at least once upon a time there was a lot of comedy films that came out in February, and Adam Sandler was amongst a lot of them. So, Wedding Singer is your choice for number 5. Dan, where would you rank that amongst the other Adam Sandler films she listed off there? 51st Dates, Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore.
I think it might be his best movie, to be honest with you. I feel it's his most complete film. I mean, I think Adam Sandler might be my favorite. I don't want to say that. Happy Gilmore might be my favorite, but I do really love The Wedding Singer. I find it the most rewatchable of all of his movies.
And I think for me, the number of Adam Sandler films that were on our list as options canceled each other out. So none of them are going to make my list. But you got to have a little guilty pleasure for, and we were the right age when those films were coming out as well, obviously. So I think you can't go wrong with most of those picks. All right, I'll go up next, and for my number 5, I will go as far away from being similar to an Adam Sandler movie as you possibly can, and I will go to my only pick from the 2000s, the first decade of the 2000s, I guess you can say, and that is from 2004, and I'll go with Passion of the Christ. Amanda is giving me an awful look. You haven't even seen the film.
I don't want to.
I don't blame you, but I don't know. It was like nothing that had come before it, and it was definitely something to watch. I wouldn't watch it more than once, probably.
That's why you asked me about my religious beliefs last night.
But yeah, I don't know. I think out of all the films that come out in February, it's not the typical type. It's not the typical genre. It's not the typical feel that you get from February films. So I have Passion of Christ at number 5 for me.
Yeah, you could not have a little bit of whiplash from one movie to the next.
Wedding Singer to Passion of the Christ.
I don't know if I'm going to make it any.
See where we differ.
I don't know if I'm going to make it any easier, but I did try to look at different categories with this too, surprisingly enough, because it was a lot harder than I expected. Because there are a lot of good movies that have come in February; they're just really scattered. And so I first looked at one thing I wanted to look at was animation. There's a lot of great animated movies, as we talked about with What Made More, and some bad ones too. But I think my favorite was actually ended up being Coraline. It's kind of what made me fall in love with the Studio Laka, and pretty much anything they do, I want to go see now. It's based on a Neil Gaiman story. It is kind of Neil Burton-esque, but I think so much better than that. And I think it's certainly a film that visually is rather spectacular, and I am a big fan of stop motion animation. And I think this still might be Lanka's best movie. So it's like they're still probably looking at like everything animation-wise, voice acting, story. They haven't really got to that level again, but they still have made pretty solid films. But that's why I made my number 5.
I love this movie. I battled with putting it on my list or not. It got beat out in the category, but I own this. It's definitely a rewatch. I've watched it several times already, and like you said, it's amazing visually. Really awesome voice cast too. It's super freaking creepy and dark, really, if you think about it. And I guess you really don't have to think that hard. You can see it's creepy. So I think that's a good choice. I
think this is one that I haven't seen, so I need to correct that. So, because I like most of their other stuff as well, so I would like to check this one out.
Well, let's hurry up and get this done so we can go watch it.
All right, Amanda, what is your number 4?
Number 4, I had to throw in a horror pick. I begged Kevin to let me do all horror on my list, and he said no. Thank you for being a stick in the mud, because I could pick 5 of my favorites out of the list of horror movies that have come out in February. I decided to pick probably the most well-received, and that's Silence of the Lambs.
All right.
Yeah, I will. I guess I'll just jump on here with you because it's on my list too. It's a lot higher, but I'll just do it now. Makes sense. It is, an all-time classic. One of the few films that's won Best Director, Best Actor, Actress, and I think Best Script, if I'm not mistaken. Anthony Hopkins playing one of the most iconic villains of all time, though I think Matt Mikkelsen might be better than him now in that role in the Hannibal TV series, but it's a little bit different of a character. It's certainly set like a tone, a new type of crime film or horror film, however you want to say it. That we got a lot of Seven, which is certainly shares a lot of similarities with this idea of kind of the serial killer and the human cannibal, but it's just such a well crafted movie. Probably one of the best of the 90s for sure, and I think it's certainly deserving of its iconic status based upon a lot of his performances, and it's been parodied. So yeah, and looking through this, I didn't even realize it came out in February. I was a little bit surprised, but I guess maybe it was a movie they did not have that much faith in, or it was just simply like, hey, it wasn't expected to do what it did, and it became an all-time classic.
I'd love to go back in time and see what how much of a surprise it was that year. Like if anybody saw that coming, or if it was just something that kind of like took everybody by surprise, and then ended up sticking around the whole year and winning those awards, because you wouldn't have expected something like that to come out of February at all.
Well, this is before Bone Tomahawk, so people were still pretty freaking disturbed by cannibalism and things like that. And also Gary Oldman playing a role that I didn't even know that was Gary Oldman until probably a couple of years ago. I was pretty shocked at that too. I mean, that guy can transform and play some different stuff, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And who isn't creeped out by Anthony Hopkins? I mean, he was creepy in The Wolfman, and I have him on in my list 3 times for Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal, and The Wolfman.
All right.
Creepy dude.
Good February month, a good month of the year for Mr. Hopkins, I guess. I will go into my number 4 next, and like Dan, I have an animated feature as well. And for my number 4, it's the only one from this most recent decade. It's 2014's The Lego Movie. I couldn't not put this on my list. It was in one of my best picks of that year. Probably one of my favorite animated films of recent times, and it's just so much fun. And I think there's a lot of rewatchability for it. And I think it was kind of the start, I think, recently in the last couple of years of this turn where February doesn't necessarily mean nothing good can come out of it. I think between 2014 and 2015 we had a couple hidden gems in there, and I think this was the first one. So Lego Movie is my number 4. Dan?
All right. Well, my number 4 is one we kind of talked about a little bit already. I guess similar. I guess you can somewhat consider it a horror film, but it is from Martin Scorsese, and it is Shutter Island. I remember this movie was coming out, and it actually got pushed back. I think it was for like a few months. It came out in February. I was a little worried about it because seeing this movie get pushed back, and especially getting landed in February, typically not a good sign. But I ended up really watching it the first time, enjoying it, but the more I've seen it, I've really come to appreciate it. I love the mystery behind it, the ambiguity behind it. It's also a beautiful film. It's unique for Scorsese. He gets kind of labeled with the different types of films, like obviously the Goodfellas and the Crime and Departed, but I think this shows just how great of a technical director Scorsese can be. Some great acting with Mark Ruffalo and DiCaprio, and even better so when you go through and rewatch this movie again and see, when you have the twist in mind, when you know what's going on, and you see the little touches that they put into it, and to really make it work. And it's actually really, I think, an underrated film in that manner. So, and it feels like a classic film, like a classic movie of that time period, especially with the score. So that's why I have it at number 4.
Yeah, I agree, and we just actually recently rewatched that. I'd never seen it before, so it was I had seen it. You hadn't?
I hadn't seen it either.
Okay, and it was a first watch for both of us. It wasn't a rewatch, so but we both really liked it. And honestly, I have about 25 films on my list that I was thinking about for this top 5. It's the only one I have written down between the years of 2005 and 2013. I don't have anything else from that time period. So it was I think that's why February has had such a bad reputation, was for that stretch there of about almost a good 10 years. I mean, and Shutter Island is definitely, that was a hidden gem back in 2010. So I think that's a great pick. Amanda, you were going to say something about it?
Oh, just that this flew under my radar for a long time, and I wanted to see it, but I really wasn't sure how good it would be. And I saw the twist coming. I think kind of it wasn't as hidden for me, but now that I know the twist, I think it'd definitely be worth a rewatch to really try to pick those elements out, like you said, Dan.
For sure. All right, that means it's back to your turn, Amanda. What is your number 3?
This movie, Homeward Bound.
What?
Hashtag the feels. I love it so much. I think it's hilarious. I think it's such a fun voice cast. Definitely an epic journey. And
no, it's an incredible journey, actually.
Okay, it's an incredibly epic journey. And who hasn't seen this movie? Because you are a heartless beast, and you need to watch this.
I will admit that I have not seen this film since I was... How old? What year did it come out?
You only saw it one time?
I've only seen it one time.
You are a heartless animal.
It was one of my favorite movies growing up as a kid. We wore
Me too.
Wore that VHS out like no tomorrow, and I even loved the sequels that came out after it. So
Yes.
Yeah. I did like both of them, but I just don't remember watching them more than once. But I think that's a great pick. I would actually rewatch that. It's been so long.
I'll cry my eyes out.
It'd probably be awful. Like, this is right.
I'd be like, I should not have done that.
Yeah.
Let the memory live.
It's like when I try to rewatch the original Mighty Ducks. I'm like, no, I should just let that memory stay.
For my number 3, I'm going to go into the 90s, 1993, I guess, appropriately, and that would be for the film Groundhog Day. I don't care what people say what about it and what people want to hate on it these days. I've heard it a couple different times on a couple different podcasts, but Groundhog Day is a great film. Bill Murray is awesome, and if he has a movie on here, I'm not going to leave it off. So Groundhog Day from 1993 is my number 3.
I didn't realize that was from the 90s. I thought it was earlier than that.
It has the same feel of like a lot of those 80s John Candy, Bill Murray type films, so I can see that. But yeah, 1993, and I think it was a 90s. There was full of comedy films in February, so that was one of the best, I think. Dan, what do you got at number 3?
I have another comedy at number 3 from the 90s, but the late 90s, and it's one of, like I said, a cult classic when it comes to comedy, and that's Office Space. I, like many people, missed this movie when it was in theaters, caught it on TV, maybe Comedy Central or something like that, started watching it, and, we watched it many, many times since then, now own it. Working in an office space, as it says, it's so very accurate. Well, it's elements of it, I should say. It's definitely, certainly a caricature of the office environment, but I think everyone now has that dream of kind of going in and acting the way he does, and breaking open your cubicle. It's just, it's so many quotes. It's ridiculously quoted. From pieces of Flair to the O-Face to, it's
Stapler.
Exactly. So it's a endlessly rewatchable movie. I mean, maybe not be the technical achievement of something like, Silence of the Lambs, but I think when it comes to comedies and, it's talking about incredible journeys, it's interesting seeing a movie that was once this failure become one of the most, notable films of its day.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think many people will say too much bad about Office Space, so I think you'd have a lot of agreement there. Amanda, number 2.
It's me again?
That's how this works, yes.
I thought you had to do your number 3 still.
Nope.
What did you pick for
Groundhog
number 3?
Day.
Oh, okay.
Do we have to live that day again?
It's because I'm drawing Lady Gaga, okay? I'm just too busy over here drawing Lady Gaga. My number 2 is... Doesn't it look like her?
I don't. It's disturbing.
Is Wayne's World. I actually got to sing the Wayne's World theme song in real life today. Somebody randomly said Wayne's World, and I had to butt in and scream Wayne's World party time. Excellent. So
Today? Okay.
Today, in fact.
How fitting.
2 old people.
You had Wayne's World on the mind.
Yeah.
So you'd put that ahead of a lot of the other comedies that we were listing off previously, like Ace Ventura and Bill and Ted. And
I was thinking about it, and, Chicago had to bring it home, and Bill and Ted, super close in there, and Ace Ventura, actually. Huge fan of that movie, but just a little bit more disturbing with the Finkel and the Ironheart. So,
it's got Dan Marino in it, so it's unfair
does.
for me.
So, yeah, Wayne's World, though.
Dan, how would you rank those? Wayne's World, Bill and Ted's, and Ace Ventura?
Wayne's World, Bill and Ted, though, I think Bogus Journey's better, and then probably Ace Ventura.
Okay.
I loved Ace Ventura as a kid, but as an adult, I'm like, I don't know if I could take it.
I'm surprised they let me watch that as a kid, honestly. There's some questionable shit in that.
It's okay, they had a cartoon series on it as well.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, for my number 2, it's already been talked about, so we don't need to spend too much time on it, but it would be Silence of the Lambs as well, so obviously in agreement with you.
Why the fuck
there.
did you pick a horror movie?
I don't necessarily consider that a horror film.
Yeah, that's one hard to, when you picking genres, that's why it becomes difficult, because you get a movie like Silence of the Lambs, which could be 4 different genres. It could be a drama, it could be a crime film, it could be a horror film, it could be a thriller.
Suspense or something, yeah.
I'm just surprised Kevin had the stomach to watch it.
No, I love that movie. That's probably up there on my all-time list. So.
Have you seen Hannibal? Have you seen Red Dragon?
I would have to rewatch Red Dragon to double check to see if I have seen it, but I know I've seen Hannibal and Silence of the Lambs.
Phineas or Fiennes or whatever.
Ray Fiennes.
Ray Fiennes, yeah. All right, Dan, your number 2.
My number 2 is, this one came challenging because there's 2 Wes Anderson movies. I could have probably put both on this list, but I went with One, though, I think I love them both a great deal, and I went with Rushmore as my number 2. I think it's probably Wes Anderson's best film, though Grand Budapest Hotel is very close. Bill Murray, again, him like Adam Sandler apparently has a lot of movies come out in February, but it's such a, I think it's Wes Anderson before he got too Wes Anderson-y, like he was just on the brink of getting into his love of his niche type of style, but it's just endlessly funny, great. Bill Murray is just excellent in it. It's amazing characters, and I don't know. It's a movie I remember watching it when I was a kid and like hating it. Like I don't know what this thing is, but as an adult, going back and seeing it again, I greatly enjoy it. It's kind of what got me into the Wes Anderson train, and I've been in there ever since. It became hard at times. Some of his movies, like when you got to like Steve Zissou and the Darjeeling Unlimited, I'm like, I don't know about this anymore. But then Fantastic Fox came out, and I'm like, okay, I'm back on board.
Back on track. All right, yeah, great pick. Wes Anderson had a couple choices, obviously, you could have taken from. So, I need to. I don't know if I saw that one when I was little or younger or not, but I need to rewatch that because I don't recall as much from that one as I do most of his other films. So I think that's one that definitely needs to go up on my list for rewatch.
It definitely doesn't have the stylistic choices that you see. It does to a certain extent, but certainly it's not to the level of like Grand Budapest Hotel, which is this big bombastic and
right. Well, after Fantastic Mr. Fox and Moonrise Kingdom and Grand Budapest Hotel, we were going to go back and rewatch all the Wes Anderson films, and we started with
Bottle Rocket.
My roommate. No, we started. I actually saw Bottle Rocket a long time ago and loved it, but we started our trek backwards, I guess, and we went with Steve Zissou first, and that's where it stopped.
Yeah.
I could continue that process, so I need to get back to some of those other ones. But yeah, great pick, Amanda. This back to you. I don't know if you were confused about that or not, but it's back to you for your number 1 pick.
You're gonna get a throat punch, sir. I am going with one of the greatest movies of all time, Footloose.
Representing
the remake.
No.
I thought you were going to go with Dirty Dancing Havana Nights here.
It was a close call there on that one, but...
that could have been a pairing. So why Footloose?
Why Footloose? I did my first tap dance ever to the Footloose theme, and since then I've been on board.
You know how to tap dance?
I was in tap, ballet, and jazz for like a ton of years when I was little.
Learn something new every day.
That's why I'm so coordinated and amazing. But... I love me some Kevin Bacon in this.
Didn't you just break a plate all over the kitchen?
I did.
Okay. Sorry. Inside baseball.
Look at this. I think it was a great story. Some really good supporting roles there. Who doesn't love the whole montage where they're teaching that guy how to dance? It's a really good, feel-good, let-loose movie. I like it.
All right. Footloose getting some love.
You don't know if you've seen Footloose?
I don't think I've seen it. I've seen scenes.
Are we friends for real?
We are. That's why you're here, to represent films that I'm blind to.
God, that's right.
All right, for my number 1 pick, I'm going to go to my only pick from the 80s, and that would be from 1984. Probably not as good a film as The Silence of the Lambs, etc., but I guess I'll let my personal bias get in the way of this one just because I have a soft spot for the film, and that would be The Breakfast Club from 1984. So I just think there's a lot there to love. Cult classic as well. I don't need to go into too much about The Breakfast Club, so that is my number 1 pick. Dan, what do you got?
Yeah, great movie for sure. I consider that. It's, John Hughes coming out party, really. But yeah. My number 1 is actually one that's already been talked about. For me, it's a near perfect film. One of the best comedies of all time and so much more, and that's Groundhog Day. Apparently there's people who don't like it now. I guess, I don't know. I think that's crazy. It doesn't really matter to me because it is, like, comedically brilliant in so many ways. It's, gets into some rather dark places, but the way it's laid out, I think it's, script-wise, it's quite amazing. Bill Murray on the top of his game, and it just, there's so much into that movie, especially as it progresses and it becomes something so much more than just this comedy when it starts out off being. And I think it says a lot, and there's a lot you can take from it. There's also, a lot of different, I think, themes people have. that come from that movie because of its setup, because of what you see this person go through. And I know there's been people who've like tried to estimate how long he's really been there and all this crazy stuff, but I just find it kind of a high concept that works. It's well executed, and it's as a groundhog, Punxsutawney. How can you not love being stuck in Punxsutawney? And it's also that scenario, I think, that people have kind of it's become so synonymous with different things, and we've seen it again repeated in something like The Edge of Tomorrow, but I think it's an interesting idea that could easily be so hard to pull off because it can be so boring, it could be so
problematic.
Yeah, problematic, kind of nauseating. But when you have Bill Murray, there's just so many great moments from him, like doing the Jeopardy to it just gets your mind racing, gets your idea like what would I do in that situation, and then I don't know, again, it goes different directions that you may not be expecting. But I think it's legitimately one of the best comedies. It's one of my personal favorite movies of all time. So I think it's excellent.
Wasn't it filmed in Woodstock, Illinois?
It probably wasn't filmed in Punxsutawney, but
I think so.
I'm not sure.
I'm in Woodstock all the time, and I'm always looking around like, where was this? I think it's probably a lot different place now.
Yeah, I'm in agreement since it was my number 3. And honestly, whenever I hear somebody say something bad about Groundhog Day or like, what about Bob, my brain dies a little bit inside because I just can't understand it. But definitely in agreement with Groundhog Day there as well. Amanda, anything, you can't go through all 765 films that you have listed on these sheets of paper in front of you.
It's one sheet.
But any honorable mentions that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Hells yes. Queen of the Damned, The Sphere, Constantine, Diary of the Dead, just a few horror choices to throw out there. But Old School, love that movie to death. Also, a little weird guilty pleasure of mine, that's Monkey Bone with Brendan Fraser and what's his name? He was on Saturday Night Live and he was in Night at Roxbury. Chris Kattan, yes. I love that movie so much, and it's ridiculous and raunchy, but I had so much fun with it. That's just a couple of my weird ones. Oh, Rollerball? What's up?
Sometimes I wonder how we ever go to a movie together.
Also, Bloodsport, Running Scared, the number 23, and A Good Day to Die Hard.
Oh, don't say that again. You just killed DJ. All right, Dan, any honorable mentions that you got that you want to throw out there?
Well, ones that didn't mention, I actually really like The Crazies. I think that's a rather underrated film. Some of them we already brought up, but Super Troopers, I liked that a lot more in college. I don't know how much it would hold up now. I do like Safe House. I think that's a fun action film. Not Army of Darkness, and that I highly thought about placing here. And any other ones that were not mentioned, and that's pretty much it. Side Effects as well. I did enjoy that a good amount.
I have a couple on my list too that haven't been mentioned. I'll skip over the ones that have. Apparently it did not get reviewed very well when we went over our Rotten Tomatoes last week when I was doing the research, but I have a soft spot for another cult classic from the 80s, which is The Burbs. I don't know why.
Oh, I know why.
Well,
Perv.
What?
Tom Hanks? Is that
Tom Hanks, yeah. Jennifer Love Hewitt and her fat ass.
She's not in The Burbs.
Pretty sure she is.
No, she's not.
We'll see.
I think she was like 8 when that came out.
Yeah, she was not even like
I said, perv.
But The Burbs, I had, let's see, Reality Bites I like somewhat, but I haven't seen that except for once, I think, in the 90s, so maybe that's not a good film. Donnie Brasco I had listed as a possible Payback from 1999, The Life of David Gale from 2003, and then how about the resurgence or the trying to dismantle the February mantra last year with Kingsman: The Secret Service and What We Do in the Shadows?
Yeah, I figured I've been talking a lot about What We Do in the Shadows, so I left it off. That's why I crossed off my number 5. And I also had Kingsman at my number 5, and I crossed both of them off.
I kind of figured if that was really a February release, because I feel like it was released earlier than that in some locations, so it was hard for me to
that could be.
figure out if that qualified or not.
So Dan, we've been taking a 2-week look at February. We've looked at Rotten Tomatoes, we've looked at box office, we've looked and done research for our favorite films that came out in February. We've dissected this month more than you probably could in any other way. Looking back now, does February deserve the traditional motto of the movie kind of dumping ground, or what have you seen as far as how February has changed over the years? Has it shifted, or has it always just been the same? Or what's your viewpoint on February as a film release date?
I do think it is very much still a dumping ground, but I do think, at least in the last couple of years, we are seeing, I think, a broader season. And we are getting at least a couple films here and there that are good. Even, it's not impossible to release one, but I do think for a long period of there, from really from 2000 to maybe like 2010, 2009, it became really just like nothing. But I think with the summer movie season kind of expanding, and you have movies coming out in March now, like Batman vs. Superman, it's causing people to be more strategic when they place their films, and I think they're also realizing that there is some benefit for a movie like Deadpool to come out in February, because there's not nearly as competition. You're kind of getting in that mode. So I do think we are seeing a shift, but for a long period of time, it was like a Sahara Desert of crappiness. So.
I think the other thing that I kind of noticed as going through here is that even though it is kind of still the dumping ground, and for a long time, like you said, especially from the first decade of the 2000s, was basically void of anything worth anything. But I think what you can see February as is it does have an opportunity for certain genres to shine a little bit. I think, we're coming off of the November, December Oscar push and all of that other type of stuff. And what I notice is there's not a lot of dramas we mentioned as far as favorite films that have come out in February. Even if you look at our honorable mentions, we weren't listing a whole bunch of dramas. So I think it's a situation where you have a lot of people that have just gone through and seen a whole bunch of really good films and really good dramas, which opens up the possibility for, like we saw, comedies, horror films, and some of the other genres like that to kind of shine for a little bit before it gets into the summer blockbuster season. So I did notice that it seemed like a lot of comedies, a lot of horror films, not really too much room for dramas in February. I don't know if I was the only one that was seeing that or not. But Amanda, obviously you're a horror fan, film fan of horror films. I can't talk. Obviously, you're a fan of horror films. Do you, typically October, September, October gets the credit for all the horror films coming out. As we build up to Halloween, is February the lost month for horror fans?
I think so, because isn't The Witch coming out this month as well?
Yep.
So, looking at all the awesome stuff that's come out of February for horror, from just this list that I had, plus, things that are coming out this year as far as horror goes, looks pretty quality. I think it's the sleeper month for horror. And I like a lot of movies that came out in February, apparently, and I'm on my own little island with loving all these films, apparently, so.
All right. Fair enough. So you'll have to let us know what your thoughts are on February as a month of film now that you've heard all these different films thrown out there in different ways, and what you view February as. What type of film should come out in February? What's the best thing to see after we're done with the holiday season? So, all right, getting into our last segment here real quick. We got what we've been watching and what's coming out. So we have not seen very many films since the last episode, so I'll let Amanda go with the only one that she saw by herself. You saw a film from last year, Escobar, Paradise Lost, with Benicio del Toro.
Benicio del Toro and Josh Hutcherson.
How'd you like it?
I heard about this. I think Barry was talking about it on True Bromance, and I'd seen it in the Vitcha store, so I had to grab it for just a leisurely watch, and I had high hopes because I really do love the Benicio. I think he's awesome in everything that he does, and I was like, this is probably his gear up for Sicario from last year. So I just think that it was pretty watered down. I really didn't believe the love story. I think that Pablo Escobar he looked like a real dude. Like, he was this fat guy with a nasty beard at one point in these creepy little Adidas jogging shorts. But I wasn't that scared of him. They didn't really set up the stakes. They showed how you don't get away from Pablo and some of the things that he did, but I think it was just super watered down, and they couldn't really get into it.
All right, so out of 10?
I would say 3.5.
All right. 3.5 out of 10 for Escobar Paradise Lost. Apparently, don't go run into the Vitya store to rent that one. Dan, what did you see this last week?
I saw Clouds of Sils Maria. I know you guys watched it last year. We're not huge fans of it.
I didn't even watch the whole thing.
I think I liked it a little bit more than you did, but I was not the biggest fan, to be honest. It's a movie I can recognize why people would enjoy it, but I just kind of checked out. I just found their conversations, I could hear them saying words, but none of it really stuck with me all that much. It falls in line with a movie like Certified Copy, which I know a lot of people love. I just found it, they were taking themselves much more seriously than I did, and I just didn't find like the importance of what they were discussing there, as it just felt too self-important to me. But I did appreciate the performances, and it's interesting because I watched this not shortly after seeing something like The End of the Tour, which is similar in that it's very conversation-based, and I found that so much more captivating, so much more interesting. I think mainly because I enjoyed the characters a lot more than I did with this, where I never felt I got to know who those characters were nearly enough. So it's a well-acted movie, and I could see its merits, but for me personally, I just did not enjoy my experience whatsoever.
See, with that one, I did list Kristen Stewart in my blog post as far as actress performances from 2015. I do think the performances were done well, and I thought she was surprisingly good. I think my biggest problem was that I had just this adverse reaction because I felt like I was investing time and effort to go through the whole thing. You know, like you said, I wasn't necessarily feeling connected to the characters as much, but I still was like into it enough to like, I'm going to invest my time, I'm going to see this to the end, and I still have hopes for it. Like, I genuinely somewhat enjoyed most of the film, but then had a very adverse reaction, I guess, to maybe the last little bit where I just felt like nothing, like I just felt like there was a letdown. There was no climactic ending, whether from a thematic standpoint, whether from an action standpoint, to feel like it was a payoff for the time I had spent with these characters. And maybe it was because, like you're saying, I didn't get the connection with the characters, but I just felt let down. I felt like there was pieces there of a good to great movie, and I just didn't get it. So
yeah, it's also maybe not been the best time to watch it because I was taking care of my sick kid when I was in between him sleeping, so that could have affected my viewing for sure. So
yeah,
it was really bad.
I just expected it to do something that it didn't do, I guess, eventually.
It didn't do anything.
Yeah. All right. I am a man of my word, and I don't know if it was last episode or the one before that where we had let out that I had not seen True Romance. And we rectified that this week, so I did get a chance to catch up with True Romance.
I want to say that I'm severely disappointed with your
reaction
to this movie.
Yeah.
I need to preface that, so these people need to know that I'm seriously disappointed in you, sir.
Okay. First of all, even if you say that, I enjoyed the film.
You didn't act like it.
I like True Romance, and I think there's some rewatchability there, stuff to look for in a second and third viewing and stuff like that, obviously with anything kind of somewhat connected to Tarantino. And I think some of the characters are very enjoyable to kind of watch and get to know. I guess I was hoping to be even more blown away. I was hoping to have an experience closer to like Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs.
He just wrote it. He didn't direct it.
I know. But what ended up with instead is I think I would put this one much more in the realm of like where we placed Jackie Brown. As far as the Tarantino films that we were listing before, it just kind of felt like maybe a slightly better version of Jackie Brown, but I don't know. There just seems to be a lot of similarities between the two films. I don't know how you feel about it, Dan, because we didn't necessarily cover it when we did our Tarantino retrospective. So, I mean, it's one where I'm saying I might come across as if I didn't like it, but that's like saying that, it's the worst Tarantino film. It's still a good film, and I still liked a lot about it. But I think ranking-wise, I put it closer to the Jackie Brown portion of our rankings.
I feel it feels more like a Tony Scott movie than it does Tarantino.
Yeah.
So a little bit more stylized than something like Jackie Brown. I enjoy it too. I don't think I'm in love with it. Like some people love that movie. I think it's, there's certainly a lot there to enjoy. I think Tony Scott's one of Tony Scott's best movies, but I don't know if I was putting it in the filmography of Tarantino, where would I put it? I probably would put it like mid-range, maybe below, Inglourious Bastards, below Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, Django, but above maybe Kill Bill Volume 1 and Death Proof and stuff like that. So it's about I would say, but again, it's like mid-range Steven Spielberg. It's still really good,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I'm not necessarily dissing the movie. I think there's a lot to love about it. I just don't quite put it as high as some of the people I've heard talk about this film.
I'm right here. You don't have to say it.
It's been a long. I've only watched it once, and it was a long time ago. So, like you, I don't know if I can really fairly compare it to films that I've seen multiple times. So.
Right, and I think I do need to see it again at some point too, just to make sure it wasn't anything, as far as state of mind or anything like that took away from it, because I think there is a lot to like here. So I would rank it probably. I'm going to give this one like a 7 out of 10. I'm still getting evil eyes over here. What would you put it at, Amanda?
I'll give it an 8.
Okay, I gave it a 7. That's only one number different. All right. And then Amanda caught up with 2 films that she had not seen in their entirety. So last thing, as far as what we've been watching, Amanda, why don't you give your thoughts on Dawn and Rise of the Planet of the Apes?
Okay, so I think that the first time I watched Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, or Rise, which one's the first one?
Just say the first one.
The first
one? So we
one?
don't confuse anybody.
Okay, so the first one, I got to a certain point in the movie and I was like, hell no, I'm not finishing this, because it makes me feel freaking horrible because of how this little dude gets treated. And right away, it's like that Bambi thing where his mom gets killed, spoiler alert, Caesar. So it's just, it drags me down, super drags me down, and fuck you, Draco Malfoy, because I now hate you even worse.
That's not his real name.
It's his fucking real name to me, okay?
All right, but this time you watched the whole thing.
But I got through the whole thing, and I still really didn't feel good after I finished watching it. It was a good movie, super solid film, had some awesome moments. I think that the apes were super well done in this. But right away I was ready to watch the second one. And
it was like past our bedtime, and you're like, can we put the second one in?
We have a bedtime, no.
It's like past when we usually go to sleep, and she was looking at the clock to see if there's enough time to put the second one in.
Yeah, I'm still raring to go to see the rest of them. We are kind of stalled in the 1967
one or whatever.
67 one. But it's really cool to see all these callbacks. As far as my ranking, I would say maybe...
Which one did you like better, the first or the second?
Let's say the first one. Well, originally I thought it was the second one because there's less tongue at your heartstrings moments. But now, having a little bit of time to sit on it, I think I'm going to go with them in order, first and second.
And what would you rank them?
Rate them?
Out of 10, what would you rate them?
Well, let's give them a 7 and a 7.5. So 7.5 for the first one and a 7 for the second one.
All right. So she's on board with the Planet of the Apes, and now we're making our way through the 5 original films, followed once again by apparently the Marky Mark film, because that's the only one she's seen, and I need to rewatch it with her so that she can realize how wrong she is.
But I like it.
You won't after you watch them all.
Says who?
All right, Dan, anything else that you wanted to bring up that you've seen in the last week?
Nothing really. I've watched half of Cartel Land, but that's about it. So.
There we go. All right, so as far as looking ahead here at the weekend for theater releases as well as Tuesday's upcoming Blu-ray releases, here are our choices for this week. On limited video-on-demand releases, we have a documentary called Rolling Papers about some things going on in Colorado. We have a film called Forsaken, which is a Western starring, get this, Kiefer and Donald Sutherland, Brian Cox, and Demi Moore. I don't know what else needs to be said about that. As far as wide releases, we have Race, the Jesse Owens joint. we have Amanda's, one of her most anticipated films of the year, The Witch, and we have Risen coming out, which was on my list for most anticipated as well. As far as Blu-ray releases coming up on Tuesday, we have Secret in Their Eyes, The Good Dinosaur, and Spotlight. Dan, you could only watch one. Which one are you going to?
I really want to see Spotlight, so that's where I'm going.
All right, your chance is coming up. Amanda?
Ooh, so I really, really, really wanted to see Secret in Their Eyes, but The Witch probably gonna disturb me quite a bit.
No love for the Sutherlands?
No love for the Sutherlands, no.
All right, so you're going with The Witch?
Yes.
All right, and even though I do want to see Risen, I will join Dan, and if I had to pick only one that I could watch, again, I'll go with Spotlight.
You've already seen Spotlight.
I know, but I want to own it. So, all right, so that does it for this week. You'll have to let us know a few things on the website. You can react to our February films. You can react to what you want to see from Sonic the Hedgehog, as far as what type of film you would like to see that be, and tell us how excited you are for Deadpool 2, Saw 8, or the Expendables version of a horror film. So, as far as other ways to get in contact with us, you can email us, feedback@geekcastradio.com. You can visit the Facebook page by searching out Geekcast Radio Network. The Twitter for the network is @GeekcastRadio. The show Twitter is @Cinema Geekcast. Mine is @Optimus Solo. Amanda, yours is?
Hard Candy Mandy, Eyes, No Eyes.
Dan, yours is?
Movie Revolt.
And if you haven't had a chance, go back. It was released a little while back. Amanda did have a chance to do a guest spot on the Pop Culture Case Study podcast, and you guys talked about what?
In prep for for Deadpool, we talked Green Lantern.
So you can hear her as the first guest spot on Pop Culture Case Study talking some Green Lantern. Go out and search that out. But as for now, that is it for us. Be sure to check in next week when we're going to be doing our first of a series of things that we'll be doing this year. Like we said, we haven't been doing a lot as far as box office or trailers because we're going to do it once a month. And that's coming up next week as we preview the film month that will be March. So we'll get into our box office, trailer talk, and all kinds of stuff for the month of March next week. So that's what you can look forward to when you have your next chance to listen to the Cinema Geeks.